Hello, everyone. My name is Eric Owens. I am the president of the American Distilling Institute. I am thankful to have you all here today for our conversation with Scott Schiller. The conference registration is open for ADI Miami. We will be in Miami Beach, a few blocks away from the beach. We will also, around the conference, be doing a gin summit, a rum summit, and we'll be doing the cocktail competition again this year. Our keynote speaker will be Stephen Grass, and I hope to see you all there. Today, we will be talking with Scott Schiller. This is intended to be a bit of a conversation. So if you have any questions during this, you can throw them in the chat and I will interject when it seems appropriate. As I travel around the country and visit distilleries, uh, the business is changing, has changed from where it was 10 years ago. And 10 years ago, everybody was in that premium, super premium category. It's the the place I think where most people's hearts live when they make products that are elevated products and have elevated price tags as well. But it's older products generally, which are cost more money to produce and therefore cost more to sell. But as I've been traveling around these days, I've been having more and more conversations with distillers where they are talking about having lower priced products and the lower end or the bottom shelf, as you might say. And so that's where the idea of this webinar came out of. Is I was just wondering about that as a business plan, as strategy, and as how are people successfully adding this into their business plans to help sustain their distillery for the long run. And with that, we have Scott Schiller with us today with Thoroughbred Spirits. And so there you go, Scott. uh, I will hide myself, but I will be off stage. And yeah, please feel free to ask any questions.
Thanks
And
for that,
here you
Eric.
go.
Thanks for the introduction. Thanks to ADI as a whole for putting on this information. I really appreciate how much you do for the industry as a whole, and also the people behind the scenes, Brandon and Anne-Sophie, for putting this together. Pleasure to speak with you. Thanks for turning in. As Eric mentioned, I'm Scott with Thoroughbred Spirits Group. We're a consulting firm focused on spirits and THC beverages, everything from startups to companies looking to get to the next level. With that, Eric sent me a cryptic text a few months ago. It may have been a month ago at best. What are your thoughts on the well and bottom shelf? And I said, depends. And I said, why do you ask? And he says, has anybody done it successfully? And I said, sure. And that turned into, will you tell people how to do it? And I said, sure. So that's what this is about. This may make complete sense for you. This may not be a good idea for you. We'll outline that as well. But we have numerous projects that have found quite a bit of success in this. And so it's a worthy thing to be mindful of, perhaps execute on, or at the very least, understand how the sausage is made. So going to run you through it. As Eric said, this is meant to be back and forth and question. This presentation will be made available, so you don't have to take notes or screenshots. You can have it. And we'll dive right in. So when we talk about this, some of you may have recollections of terrible times in high school or college of really poor, cheap brands that you're still loathing the idea of consuming again. And as Eric pointed out, particularly in our industry or our segment of the industry, we're makers. We care about what goes in the bottle. So just to set the standard or to give you some examples of what we're referring to, these are still premium products. They may not have the level of age or degree of sourcing that's required on some flagship products, but they're still good. You never want to make something you're not proud of. And so that isn't the idea here. But just to kind of spin you through, if you don't know who Wheatley is, certainly your on premise bartenders and liquor store buyers do. That's the brand by Sazerac. It's a very respectful vodka, and they leverage it to get their premium products. Hint, hint, that word leverage will come back in the future. TLC is a regional brand that was formed by some former Tito's executives. So it goes directly at Tito's as the Tito's alternative, but it's still respectable vodka and it has a nice brand pitch to it. Azul Tequila is a brand we developed when I was at Proximo. It is from the House of Grand Centenario, which is a ultra premium brand, but it was made to go after the well for margaritas. And so Azul is a very, ubiquitous and common name in the word of tequila, but it was a nice premium alternative to the Grand Centenario or ultra premium lines. Papa's Ridge is a brand that's developed for the fine people at Jeff the Creed. As if you know them, they have an estate distillery grain to glass, and their price point typically starts in the high 40s, low 50s, and which is not always the best price to market for cocktails. And in today's recent economy, not always the best price point that people can afford. So Papa's Ridge was developed as a loose sister brand to the company, but it sells for high 30s, low 40s, allowing them that leverage to go higher. In addition, Woody's Fairly Reliable, a brand we developed for the Cantilever Distillery, who makes grain to glass estate malt whiskeys and beautiful bourbons, but we needed something fun and to go after the lake life. So this product here is one of three: a vodka gin and a Amcan, which is American whiskey and Canadian whiskey put together, that sells for $20. Stack it high, watch it fly. So again, nothing is lowbrow, nothing is overly cheap, nothing is something that you wouldn't be proud to give. So if you're going to explore doing a alternative brand, there are two key guardrails that I want you to be mindful of. First and foremost, your core offering comes first. The reason you founded your brand, named your distillery after it, perhaps, or have invested millions of dollars and time in building, that needs to take priority. In addition, a lot of companies will develop a ancillary or sister brand or other product in their portfolio. And what happens is it actually starts cannibalizing the sale of the flagship, right? We'll get into that about rational and emotional benefit. But this needs to be a clear distinction. There needs to be a clear reason as to somebody would reach for the lower price versus the higher price and vice versa. So again, do not take your eye off the ball of what the business is built upon and make sure that there's a unique enough of a differentiation between the two. Okay? So how it works, looking at the lens from all three players, so retailers and on-premise, as well as the distributors, and then of course yourself. Accounts want extra profit. They like the ability of buying something that allows them to use in their drinks, but allows an extra dollar or two per cocktail, right? So name of the game for them, first and foremost, why they're interested is profit. They don't care who's behind it or what the celebrity is. They're looking for profit and quality, or like quality. They love some form of exclusivity, having the ability to have they're the only ones that carry it, especially in the off trade, is nice because then they don't worry about competitive pricing. They love the ability to leverage suppliers. The well tends to be one of the largest volume movers, not profit movers, but volume movers. So when they have a well, they become more valuable to the supplier, and they also become more valuable to the distributor, right? Because there's more flowing through to their accounts. So they like the ability when there's something good at a really good price and something they can have their own. The key thing here is that they are all about the rational benefit, right? They care more about price and profit than they care about the brand that they're serving in it. And I put to the right here that this is a fluid process because this is constantly changing depending on the individual account. An account may want to feature a super premium product, whether that's, Patron or Grey Goose or whatever, But in order to get better pricing, they will buy the well products from that distributor so that they leverage that. Distributors also do the reverse. Carry our well and we'll give you good pricing on the ultra premium stuff that you make even greater margin on. So again, accounts very profit focused. What you want is you want extra profit. This is an ancillary revenue stream. You want the ability to produce another product with most of your existing infrastructure and relationships to add profit. You ideally want to leverage that to get your core SKUs placed, right? Maybe this is the entry or gateway product or the fighter product that opens the door into these tough accounts. But the key is that it's leveraging to get your flagship products in, right? You may offer a well vodka in order to carry your ultra premium bourbon. And so you can discount or have great pricing on the vodka, but you keep the price the same on the bourbon, right? Works really, really well in the off trade in particular, where consumers see pricing. Ideally, you want a long-term relationship. You're not looking for a one and done making of this product. You want to make sure that they continue to use it. Using terms like annual agreement or annual relationship are a key thing. And you also want to make sure that this added profit and added volume gets the attention of the distributor so that they focus on your core SKU. Listen, you're doing really great volume on our low fighter product. We want you to use us as a whole. Now, as we as the supplier are worth more to you because the overall profit dollars are coming forward. Your focus is on emotional benefit and leverage focus, right? The emotion being using this as a gateway to get your core SKU in and to add that leverage to either the account or the distributor. What does the distributor want from such products? They want simple. They do not want headaches. They don't want non-incentives. They do not want bill backs. They do not want chargebacks. They do not want promos. They do not want incentives. They want it basically to sell itself. This is simple, 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 simple. They don't want this to be a loss to their other suppliers. So if you're going to knock out Wheatley from Sazerac, which is likely one of their largest suppliers, is this going to knock off Kamchatka from Bean or Smirnoff or any of these other products? That's an opportunity cost loss to them, and they don't want to face this. So this has to be ancillary growth for them, and mindful that they're going to work on similar margins. They're not, just because it's a lower price point doesn't mean that they necessarily lower their margin. So again, making sure that you're offering profit to them, easy volume, in a nice way to scale what may be a limited or lower volume turning in your core SKUs. Okay. So when you do that, how do you actually approach it? Now we know a bit of the field and how it comes together. So the first thing you need to do is confirm your bandwidth, resources, and cash flow. This is basically launching another brand. And if you're tight on focus on the production floor, your marketing team, or your sales, or, listen, it's going to take up additional bottling time or tank time, or most importantly, this is going to highly affect our cash flow because we're going to come significantly out of pocket to launch this new brand, which could jeopardize the business as a whole or our core SKU. If the ending to all of those is, severe or intense, this is not the right move for you today, right? Because it takes money, as we all know, to launch a brand, no matter how cheap it is. It's still a distraction. It's still more bandwidth. It's still tank time and certainly money. Once we've confirmed that, define success, right? Is this a fighter product? Is this something that is made to scale in accounts that we're not automatically in? Does this build relationships, meaning more profit to the account or to the distributor? And then from there, identifying gaps, right? What products should we make? This really doesn't become what you want to make. This really becomes what the need is. So in your current account universe, right? So let's say you're in your home state, you're in 150 accounts. What's the one thing that's always missing, right? Do they need a modifier? Do they need a liqueur? Or is it in those markets, there just really isn't a good affordably priced gin under $20? Okay, that's good insight. Then what's missing within your distributor? What are they missing, right? They don't really have a low price bourbon that's good quality that can scale. They are missing this particular flavor of liqueur that's missing at the moment, or that's very hot at the moment. They don't have a triple sec, as an example. The reason you think about it from these two prospects is you're solving problems, right? the first one is, what does my account actually need? The second one is, what is my distributor going to push because they're tired of losing out, right? So again, you don't have the time or money or profit from this brand in order to build it. You want this to really have the ability to sell itself. One of the most critical things is then, what is the relationship with the core brand? Is it by your distillery or the core brand's name? Is there zero association to it because the quality is really different, the brand personalities are really different, and we don't want to take them apart? Or is it something this is ancillary? Hey, if I can get you into this product, you'll likely then trade up to the other product. Take, for example, the Azul tequila I showed you earlier. That was a really good quality, approachable tequila that had by Grand Centenario, which is an ultra premium brand. The idea is that somebody had the likeness for that, would then learn about Grand Centenario through the process. Inverse is also true. Hey, you make a really cheap $20 bottle of tequila. Why am I giving a $100 bottle to your same tequila company? I find it hard to believe that those are really different. Okay. Once you confirm that, the distributor has to buy in. As I've said time and time again, our distributor is our real customer. But in this particular case, if they are against it or they don't see the value in it, your ability to scale is highly limited. Because again, this has to be easy and flow through the system, and they're the gatekeeper. Working multiple margin models. When you build your cash flow analysis or your profitability margin on each individual brand, whatever you think it's going to be, it's going to get even leaner because people are going to price at a much lower profit and you want to know that you have the flexibility, because the second you come out with one of these, you're likely going to upset another company or another distillery is going to see opportunity. And this is a race to the bottom. So if you develop your model thinking that your product's going to sell for 20, build an additional model that shows what it would retail for at $14.99. And then once we're clear about, we have the need, we have the opportunity, we've met with our distributors, we are confirmed about the margin, conduct your prototype process, right? Now that you're a going concern, it's a lot easier for you to develop a prototype. Our design team develops the brand, we create mock-up prototype bottles, and we show it around, right? These are the ways to get real feedback. So before you go build 10 pallets of it or buy a new piece of equipment or buy bulk alcohol, you find out that you really have an opportunity. And most importantly, how does it interact with your core brand, and how is that led to leverage? So Eric, that's a lot at the moment. Do you have any questions at the current time to ask? So that's the common way, but I said there's a hybrid way, and this is the private label approach. So this one's a little more slick, a little bit more creative, and a little bit more upside, but a little bit more risk. So examples of these are Empress 1908 gin, which was a gin originally developed in concert with the, now that I have to say it, the Fairmont in Canada. Basically, the Fairmont in British Columbia has a tea time at 4. They built a whole gin brand around the ritual of that tea time. And those of you who have known, now that brand is not only launched in the Fairmont in British Columbia, but throughout Canada, throughout the US, and now internationally. Kirkland Vodka, my lovely wife and I almost didn't get married because when we were first dating, we got into a strong argument about the value of Kirkland Vodka versus Grey Goose. At the time, I owned a cognac brand in France, and so I was heavy in production and visiting France a lot. The original Kirkland Vodka, not the stuff you buy today, was literally Grey Goose. It came off the same line, same bottling line, same distill. It was Grey Goose. It's not the same anymore, but she was dead set on spending $20 more on Grey Goose, where I was clearly trying to show her the value of Kirkland. And then this is the Wolcott brand, which is the #1 bourbon brand in Total Wines and More. There is no Wolcott distillery. There is no Wolcott brand ambassador. But let me tell you, does Total love having Wolcott, and so do their customers. So these are brands that are done in conjunction with some form of relationship with some end account that has some form of built-in volume and brand direction from the start. So um, again, how you approach these, you have to confirm bandwidth, resources, and cash flow. These are often more intense because you have an end client that has very set specifications. Normally, the customer you're doing this with is quite large, and so there's reputational damage if it doesn't go as well. You need to confirm their actual sales of this product. When someone says, look, we sell 1,000 cases a week of XYZ brand, therefore you should do 50% of that, or you should do the exact replacement amount. In my entire career, that has never happened once. It's usually significantly lower. So, for whatever reason, and part of the reason is because those brands have natural pull, right? People are actively pulling for a Grey Goose and tonic or martini. They may be in the mood for a martini because they see Grey Goose, not necessarily because of that. So, the key is identifying one key account to start, right? Do not approach multiple accounts, but find an account that makes the most sense, right? That might be an account you're already doing business with. This might be the large retailer. This might be your largest account as a whole. But just start out, right? This is a new sales process. It involves not only your sales team, but your finance team and your production team to make sure this all goes in concert. And then before you go to them, assess the opportunity cost. What happens if this go well? What's the reputational risk or damage? How much capital might be tied up or time? And then also, am I not focusing on other accounts, or is some account going to get jealous because I did something special with them? I can't tell you the amount of times an account has been butthurt that we've developed a custom gin for somebody or whiskey and they didn't get the same thing. And then you become a private label brand by developing all these accounts. Develop 3 to 5 concepts in advance. Don't come in with a blank slate saying, hey, tell us what you'd like us to make or what do you need. Come with the ideas fully fleshed, right? Come with a vodka, come with the idea of a gin, explain how the gin's going to be made. You're not making this from scratch. Show them examples of bourbon, that you can afford and that are readily available. And then help guide them into that position, right? So that they are not pushing you in a direction that doesn't make sense. The last thing you want to be is develop an absinthe for somebody. Not because absinthe isn't delicious, it'll take them 20 years to go through a bottle. And then discuss with ownership for the ability of what happens when this is successful. Do you own the marks? Do you own the ideation? Do you own the IP? Can you expand this brand nationally if it goes well? Can you take their name off of it if it does well? And it may seem silly at early stages, but more than once have we developed something in concert with an account that has done really, really well. And then the relationship sours because the brand wanted to expand it and didn't want to pay an incentive or a royalty to the account that helped get them there. So thinking through long-term success, as small as it may seem, just so that expectations are very clear as they go along.
We have a question for you here from Robbie. He's
All right.
one of my rum friends. He's out at, yeah. You mentioned that this is a race to the bottom of the market, but I assume there are tiers of well drinks as well. Thinking of the retail space, there are bulk brands and generic labels in plastic jugs versus Wheatley. I'd be interested to hear more about how to deal with these tiers. How do you make sure the brand doesn't get pulled into the plastic jug tier in the pricing race?
So thank you for the question, Ravi. And to give you some perspective, I'll go back here for a second and just kind of show you these guys, right? So each one of these is a brand, right? Each one has a bar call. Each one has some level of sophistication. They're just lower priced. The way to protect against that, and the way you should be protecting against it now, is still having a brand, something that people can identify with. The level of emotion should still be there with these products. As a child of the 80s, I'm very familiar with grocery stores having white plain labels and black generic lettering text. That's how you get to a race to the bottom, when you commoditize the product, but you still wanted to develop a brand. You still, again, using my comment of something that you want to be proud of. The best compliment I can give a brand is something that I want to give as a gift. This may not be the first thing you give as a gift in that regard, but you're still proud of it. If somebody knew that you made it, you wouldn't shun away. And there still is a call. In each one of these products on the screen here, there is still a bar call. There is still something of a packaging element or design. So to answer succinctly, there still needs to be a bit of a form to the brand power that will overcome such pricing dynamics. Is there another question, Eric? Okay.
That's all we got for now. I guess there's an assumption in there that a plastic jug is bad too, but I have seen people
Yeah,
utilize that as
the
well.
plastic handle, right? The party jug. There's if you go back to that Woody's product line, we offered it in glass and plastic, and the reason is because the lake life or the outdoor life, lots of people like plastic, for safety and for floatability and all those other kind of fun things. Also, a lot of parks require plastic only or no glass. We've done things at outdoor pools with large establishments that were in plastic. I think what Ravi is probably referring to is just lowbrow or cheap. And that is a definitive race to the bottom. The to clarify what I mean by the race to the bottom is that at some point another brand, especially a larger company, albeit Sazerac, et cetera, McCormick, they will, if they see a large volume coming through on your particular SKU, they will work to undercut you in that category. But if they go too cheap on their packaging or their branding, they won't win, no matter how price sensitive it is. Okay, so when it comes to the type of accounts for private label or custom developed products, make sure that the account first is on brand, right? Going back to that brand concept, you want the brand to be of like mind or like positioning. So if somebody experiences it, that relates positively back on your brand and brings you forward. Focusing on something first regional, likely in state, right? So your home market, so you can pull the home card, but also allows you to service that. Ideally, they have multiple locations, not only just within the state itself, but it's a great way to leverage distribution into other markets. If you have a product that's doing 50 cases a clip a month, that is real nice leverage to offer to a distributor to reason to open up another market for you. And we all know how difficult distribution is at the moment. You want to work with people who work with low LMF. This is my legal language of local marketing fund. So other way to say it is accounts that don't have their hand out all the time or pay to play. Because the second competitive distillery sees such a brand out and they know the account can be bought, they will buy that business out. So again, people that often operate with more integrity or don't always have their hands out. Also, you want to be in accounts that have brand named in cocktails, because again, you want to leverage your core SKUs into this. So part of the leverage that comes with this is that they see your premium brands in the actual cocktails. Cocktail menus can be expensive, even if an account has strong morals and doesn't believe in LMF. But you want to make sure that, again, you're building this product so it builds your other core brands, so the names in the cocktails. In liquor stores, again, same way to leverage that is in floor display. So like being in a branded cocktail on a menu, you want to be able to leverage your core SKUs for either better placement, or ideally, if I make this, low-end vodka for you or gin for you, you will promote my other brands in ways such as floor displays. Willing to work on leaner margins. They're willing to give up some opportunity cost to have the customization. Yes, they're giving up an annual budget from Brown-Forman. Yes, they're giving up another $1 per bottle by not using the ideal brand from the distributor, but they love the ability to have their own product. They're willing to work with somebody for that customization. And lastly, working with an account that has some form of a dedicated marketing manager. It could be a brand manager, it could be somebody in corporate office. But what drives these accounts, these brands, awful in accounts, is when an owner of a distillery and the owner of a restaurant get together. You have two overly creative people trying to get a project done. And so, going back to college days, it's a great idea that never goes anywhere in the class project. So having somebody that's basically the project manager or keeps you on track, knowing that it is a project, is critical. All right. So some wisdom when approaching this. Again, key reason as to why you do this is leverage. You're not trying to build another brand just to build another brand. You're looking at this for ancillary profit and to build greater volume with your existing brand. You want to make sure you're protecting your brand or DSP. When you flip over the back of the bottle, remember the days, it's still true, of when somebody would, tout all this great stuff about the brand or all these assumptions about the brand. They turn it over and then they saw distilled in Lawrenceburg, Indiana. That was either really good for them or really bad for them. So if you are having a price point or a quality that is significantly different for strategic reasons, maybe come up with an alternating proprietorship. If you're working on something that is you are really proud of and that will help leverage your upper end portfolio, perhaps add distilled by or made with your existing brand or distillery. So there's a call out to level up. Key thing is there are no contracts on this, especially on the private label. So you could spend all this time and development on a custom brand. You can't legally require them to buy it. You can't legally require them to carry it long term. You can't legally require them to not go work with somebody else. This is all handshake stuff. So making sure that you're very mindful of the risks, is that this could be a one and done deal, is critical. Gross margins typically dip to about 30%. If you're much below 30%, you're just too lean. And as a benchmark, your core SKU should be in the low 50s, upper 60s. So the margin is certainly less on these type of products. Don't expect them to carry forward. Management of dry goods. We know buying multiple pallets usually is the minimum. And if someone's going to start out with buying, 20 cases a month, you're going to be sitting on 2 to 3 to 6 months worth of inventory. In an ideal world, you can use some form of your existing glass bottle so that if it doesn't work out, you can throw it in your main SKU, or be sure that you're buying absolute minimums. Again, it'll cost you more, but you're leveraging and hedging against the relationship not going well. Develop a standard protocol for what you will and will not do, right? So before you meet with the account or before you go out and develop this, hey, the volume has to be this, the margin has to be this, the account has to do this. The amount of time we dedicate can't be more than whatever. Once we identify account, finance has to approve. Once finance approves, then the production team gets involved, right? And then we also involve the distributor, right? So there's a very stage-gated process through all this, because it's very intriguing to develop a brand for a company, especially if you like the company or love the hotel or love the restaurant group. It's very easy to get sidetracked from keeping in mind the business acumen. Again, looking for product gaps. Put your commercial hat on over your maker hat a little bit and just see where opportunities are. You may not like triple sec. You may think that most triple secs are terrible, which are all true, but your market may really need, or your distributor may really need, a triple sec. Make a triple sec. And then think globally. These could be great SKUs to develop or sell internationally. I know international market is also hurting at the moment, but for the most part, companies and brands and consumers love American-made products. Maybe developing something for a foreign market may come better in hand. I'd avoid Canada and Mexico at the moment. And so the key is always planning for success, right? You shouldn't do anything that isn't going to grow or help your business, but making sure that you're constantly looking forward and that you are prepared for this from a cash flow perspective, from an inventory perspective, from a bandwidth perspective. And last but not least, make sure it doesn't overtake your core skew. There you go. That's how you do it. If you have follow up questions, you're welcome to email me. Again, this will be distributed out, but feel free to send me.
Thank you so much, Scott. That was incredibly informative. And yeah, I don't see any other questions here. So yeah, thank you so much. And look forward to seeing you at the show, if not before that,
Sounds great.
on
My
a
pleasure.
webinar.
See you guys.
Thanks. Bye.